What's up, guys? Welcome to my 2012 NFL mock draft. This is my very first NFL mock draft, actually. I've done an NBA mock draft, uh, and they're always fun to do. I mean, I'm going to watch a draft anyway, so I might as well predict who's going to go where. Number one, overall, to the Indianapolis Colts, I have Andrew Luck, quarterback out of Stanford. Pretty much everyone knows that, so I'm not going to break it down a whole lot. Redskins, I have drafting RG3, number 2 quarterback out of Baylor, won the Heisman Trophy. The Redskins gave up so much to get this pick at number 2. They gave up 3 first-round draft picks, I think a second-round draft pick this year, and a future second. They gave up like 5 or 6 picks to move up, to switch spots with the Rams to draft RG3. Vikings have the number 3 overall pick with that. I believe they'll take Matt Khalil, offensive tackle out of USC. They could draft Claiborne, cornerback out of LSU. And they could draft Blackman, but I really don't see that happening. But it's down between those 3, basically. I really think it's a one-horse race, so Khalil just is off the charts. I really think that's who they will take. Cleveland, I have them taking running back Trent Richardson out of Alabama. Trent Richardson's best running back in this league. Can take a beating, take a lot of carries. He's one of the main reasons that Alabama won that national championship game against LSU. And he's a good player. Tampa Bay, I have drafting Morris Claiborne, cornerback out of LSU, at number 5 overall. And I think Tampa will be more than happy with him if he slips that far. Same thing for the Rams at 6. I have them drafting wide receiver Justin Blackman out of Okie State. He's the best wide receiver in this draft. He's got some question marks about his talent tangibles, but and his speed was one of the biggest ones. But I mean, the guy is a beast. He's huge. He reminds me of Terrell Owens, and he's a pretty damn good player. Jaguars, I have drafting Stephen Gilmore, cornerback out of South Carolina. Now, the Jaguars may move out of this pick because Gilmore could be there at, as far as 9, 10, 11. He could be in that question mark for where he should be drafted. Jaguars just might jump on him at 7, though. Quarterback, I have for the Dolphins drafting quarterback Ryan Tannehill out of Texas A&M. Tannehill's a big question mark. He played wide receiver originally in college, got moved to quarterback, put up pretty good numbers. Dude's just an athlete. He can play multiple positions, very athletic. The problem is with him is he's got a big risk and a big upside to learn more about being a quarterback. And he's got probably the biggest upside, but also probably one of the biggest risks. But I do see the Dolphins taking a chance on him. Panthers, I have drafting wide receiver Michael Floyd out of Notre Dame. I just really feel like they're going to try and give Cam Newton everything they've got, and just give him everything he needs. They could boost up the defense, but I feel like they're just going to put so much into Cam Newton that they'll give him another option to throw to, another damn good one. The Bills, I have drafting Mark Barron, safety out of Alabama. I know the Cowboys are really, really high on this guy. They may move up to get him, but assuming that everyone drafts in their own position, I think that the Bills will jump the gun and take Barron to be their safety for the next 8 to 10 years. This dude's a stud. Kansas City, I have drafting Luke Krejci. I'm not 100% sure on his last name, but he's a linebacker out of Boston College. A lot of people that have talked about this draft say he's a for sure thing. He will not disappoint you wherever he goes. He's like a lock. He's not in the top 10, but this dude's a stud, and he will be a great pick for Kansas City there. Seahawks, I have drafting Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Not a whole lot of insight on that, but that's where I have him falling. Cardinals, I have drafting Melvin Ingram, outside linebacker, South Carolina. Cardinals are starting to invest more in the defense with the Patrick Peterson pick. I think if they put another linebacker in there, Cardinals are still quite a bit away from being a playoff team, but a couple more good drafts, and they won't be too far out because the AFC West is very weak outside of the 49ers having a really good year last year, but we'll see what this year puts in for them. The Cowboys, I have drafting David DeCastro at 14, offensive guard out of Stanford. And that's just assuming that they don't move up to get Barron. Eagles, I have drafting Courtney Upshaw, a linebacker out of Alabama. After that, I have the Jets taking Deontre Poe, defensive tackle. He's like 300 pounds, runs a 4.8 40. He only had 4 sacks in college, but with his huge upside and huge combine, I think he'll get moved up quite a bit on the boards. He might go earlier at 16 even, but 16 I have the Jets taking Deontre Poe out of Memphis. Bengals, I have taken a big gamble on Quentin Copples. He's probably the biggest question mark in this draft. Defensive end out of UNC, but if any team's going to take a gamble, it's going to be the Bengals. I mean, half their team was arrested at one point a couple years back, so Bengals are definitely chance takers. Chargers, I have drafting Riley Reef, offensive tackle out of Iowa, and I feel like they're just going to pick him because they need someone to protect Rivers, and their offense is pretty good. Their defense is, an average defense, but they got to start protecting Rivers before he gets killed back there. Bears, I have drafting wide receiver Stephen Hill. I'm really high on Stephen Hill, and I think on some draft boards I've seen him go as low as 35, all the way into the second round, but I think that this dude is a stud. It reminds me a lot of Calvin Johnson. Came out of Georgia Tech. It's hard to put up big numbers there because all I do is run the ball. But this dude's pretty good. I would take him pretty high. I know why the Bears are looking to boost their wide receiving core, and he might be a good option. I know they picked up Brandon Marshall in the offseason, but another wide receiver would not hurt the Bears. Titans, I have drafting wide receiver Kendall Wright out of Baylor. The only reason why I had him slip and have Stephen Hill go as the second wide receiver is because a lot of Kendall Wright's numbers could have been tainted a little bit by just how good RG3 was. That's another thing that I just don't like a lot about a lot of these Baylor players is you have one player who is so good, so how do we know how good the other players are? You could argue the same thing about RG3. You could say he made him good, but I just have a couple of the Baylor players slipping a little bit because of that. The Bengals, I have drafting wide receiver Drake Kirkpatrick out of Alabama. I think this dude's a stud. I was surprised to see that he was as low as this on some of the boards, but I had him jumping what I've seen a lot on the board just because I think he's that good. He was a big reason why they won that game against LSU as well. He played great. Cleveland, I have drafting Dante Hightower, linebacker out of Alabama. This Alabama defense was awesome all year long. I think they averaged to give up like 6 points a game. So if you're an Alabama defensive player and you're entering this draft, chances are you're going to get drafted pretty high. After that, I have the Ravens drafting Michael Brockers, defensive tackle out of LSU. I'm really not sure what the Ravens are going to do. They've always had such a good defense, so it's kind of hard for me to see them draft another defensive player. But he was just one person that was there, and I'm really not that confident in that pick, but we'll see. Steelers, I have drafting offensive tackle Jonathan Martin out of Stanford. The Steelers pretty much always have it all going on for them. They have the past 7 years, so pretty much the best player available they're going to take, and he's the best player available, so that's why I haven't taken him. Texans, I have drafting Kevin Zeter, offensive guard out of Wisconsin. Schaub gets hurt every single year. If they can keep him healthy, they can be a playoff team. So I think offensive player, either a wide receiver or offensive guard would really help them. But I think they want to see Schaub get protected. So I think they'll go with the offensive line. Plus that would also help Arian Foster as the best running back in the NFL right now. And it hates me to say that because Adrian Peterson's so good, but Foster's beast. The Browns, again on the clock, I have them drafting Ruben Randall, a wide receiver out of LSU. Like I said before, the Browns have got 3 first-round picks, and I feel like they're going to go, I really feel like they're going to invest most of it in the offense. I got them drafting a running back, a wide receiver, and a corner. Cleveland's got a lot of needs, but they could fill a few of them here. The Packers, I have drafting Jarrell Worthy, defensive tackle out of Michigan State. Who the Packers should draft is probably Doug Martin out of Boise State, because they don't have anybody that can run the ball really, but the Packers really don't need to run the ball because they just throw it down your throats and no one can really stop them. So I haven't taken a defensive tackle just because. Lions, I have drafting Amin Sialatoui. He's an offensive tackle in Midwestern State. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew anything about him, but on some of the things I used to look and make this draft, this mock draft, he was there on a lot of them, so I'm going to trust some of the experts who know a little more than me on that. San Francisco, I have Brandon Weeden, the quarterback out of Oklahoma State, going to them. Now I know Alex Smith just got a pretty big contract extension, and a couple other draft boards have them going for a tight end here, but Vernon Davis is so good. I really can't see him running a lot of 2 tight end stuff, especially with adding Randy Moss and possibly another wide receiver later on. I don't know, I feel like Alex Smith still, a lot of people think he's proven now, but I really only see 1 good year out of him, so how much do we really know about him? Whedon's an older guy, he's like 26 years old. He'd be a good backup, good fill-in if Smith got hurt, so I'm going to go with him. Pats, I have drafting Nick Perry, defensive end out of USC, and the Giants, I have drafting safety Harrison Smith out of Notre Dame. Thanks for checking in, and hope your team gets who you want. Alright, goodbye.